Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be sharing with you in today's video 5 planter DIYs using mostly items from Dollar Tree. We're going to get started on our very first project. Using this plastic planter from Dollar Tree, once I remove the label and stickers, I will give this 2 thin coats of spray paint using Krylon Fusion All-in-One in the color Matte White. I also made sure that I painted the top inside portion just in case you could see that. Using my Cricut, I created a decal. I know that not everyone has a cutting machine, so I do have this as a free printable on my website, which I will have listed in my description box below, so that you could print this out and trace it onto your project. Once I have the decal in place, I'm going to use some black chalkboard craft paint, which I pick up at Dollar General, and a wet baby wipe to apply the paint to the top and bottom part of this planter. I like to use the wet wipe to give me a little bit more precise placement of my paint, especially at the bottom where the line is very thin. After the paint dries, you could certainly use this outside to plant your plants in. If you do that, I would recommend that you seal it with some sort of sealer like Mod Podge or a clear spray to seal the decal as well as the paint in. Now, I am not going to be using mine outside. I'm actually just going to put some artificial florals in there. I cut down 2 pieces of pool noodle just long enough for it to fit into the bottom of this planter, and to hold that in place because they're very lightweight, I added some hot glue to the ends of both of those and held it in place until the glue set up. To decorate this, I think I used about 5 of the boxwood greenery bundles from Walmart, and then I'm also going to be using some florals. To place the greenery in there, I just put 3 bundles right in between the 2 pool noodles, and then the other 2 bundles I cut the stems off and placed them all along each side until it was nice and full on both sides of the planter. The florals that I'll be using are these beautiful purple plumera flowers that I found at Dollar Tree. I'm not sure if these are a new item, but they have several different colors, and I fell in love with this purple color. I think I used about 3 bundles of these, and I cut each one of the stems off and also removed the leaves because they're a little bit different green than the boxwood greenery. I placed those all throughout the planter until it was nice and full and until I had it looking the way I wanted it to look. What I love about this is you can change those flowers out and put any different color in there that you want. I think this turned out very beautiful, and this would look beautiful in any farmhouse-inspired home. Let me know what you think of project number 1. For project number 2, we are going to create this window planter box. Using a sign from Dollar Tree, which is actually more like a picture frame, I removed the backing and set the backing to the side. I can use that for another DIY. I took pliers and removed all of the metal pieces on the back of this frame. And then I'm going to take some barbecue skewers from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use 3 of those. So I just tried to make sure that I found 3 of the straightest ones that I could find. I made a marking on the middle of each of the short ends of the frame, and then I'm going to measure the inside portion of the frame so that my barbecue skewer will rest nice right there where the backing was. I just cut the barbecue skewer down, and then I always like to hold it in place to make sure everything's going to fit before I glue this down. I used hot glue to hold this into place, and then I'll take and measure the long ends to make sure that I have equal distance for all of the 6 panes. So I'll know exactly where to place the other 2 barbecue skewers when I get ready to glue those on there. I also made sure that I made a marking on the middle barbecue skewer because I'm also going to add some glue there. Then I took my measurements to determine how long I needed each one of those skewers to be, cut those down, and then I can glue those into place. Now, they are going to bow just a little bit because you're resting them on the back of that middle skewer. So to hold that in place, I'm going to use hot glue, and then to hold that there just long enough for the glue to set up. But once I have the other one in place, I will go back in and add hot glue on top of each one of the ends of the skewers that match up to the back of the frame. And make sure that glue has set before you do any painting or staining. I'm also going to use 2 of these wooden crates from Dollar Tree, and I am just going to hot glue them end to end. And then I'm going to take my antique wax made by Waverly to go over this piece. Using a brush, I like to just apply the wax, and then you can take a paper towel or a cloth and just smear that in and sort of lighten it up a little bit to give it more of an aged, distressed look. I also made sure that I went in between every one of the slats and I covered the entire piece, including the bottom as well as the inside. I took the same wax and went over this entire picture frame. Now, this is not real wood on the outside of the frame, so I did have to go in and touch that up a little bit in certain spots once the wax had dried. Taking 3 of the tumbling tower pieces, I also stained those with the same wax. I'm going to use those as a support to hold the top of that window frame to the back of the crates. Using some hot glue, I can just glue it to the top of the back part of the crates, but then these tumbling tower pieces are really going to give it a nice joint between the window frame and the bottom of the crate there. And I'll just put one on each end and one in the middle. Let the wax set up, and then you can decorate it. And this is such a super cute piece. I really do like how this one turned out. To decorate mine after, of course, the wax is dried, I'm going to use some of those very small terracotta pots that you can pick up at Dollar Tree. I did not have 4 on hand. 4 would fit perfectly in this. I did have 3, however, so I'm going to add those 3 and add some boxwood greenery in each one of those. And then for a cute little touch on the end, I'm going to use this cute watering spout that I picked up at Dollar Tree. It's on a stake, and it's very easy to remove that metal stake. I just twisted it around until I got it nice and loose, and then I took my pliers and popped that off. Just be careful not to cut yourself because that is metal. And then I can just set it right there on the corner, and I think this turned out so cute. I really do like how project number 2 turned out. Let me know what you think. I think this would look beautiful indoors as well as on a covered patio or a covered porch. For project number 3, we're creating a plant stand using the lids from 2 of those larger boxes that you can pick up at Dollar Tree, as well as 4 of the quart-size paint stir sticks that you can get at Lowe's, and some regular size craft sticks. So you'll need 3 of the regular size craft sticks and 2 of the larger ones for each of those lids. I just cut the ends off to make sure that they were nice and straight so that I could hold those in place, make my markings, and cut those down. So I'll put 2 of the larger quart-size sticks on each end, and then I can fill the center with 3 of the regular craft sticks. And as always, I like to make sure they fit in there before I secure anything down with any glue. Once I have everything cut down to size, I can then take my hot glue and glue each individual piece into the top of this box lid. And this is to cover up that cute little design that's on there, but wasn't quite going to go well with my plant stand. So I will also be covering the back side of that up in just a minute. But you're going to do the exact same thing for the other lid and the other craft sticks. Using some stainable wood filler, I filled in the entire part of that owl. So the eyes and some of the little part of the body had holes. So I did have to apply 2 coats to make sure that I had all that wood filler down into those holes and just covered the entire piece so that I could sand that down nice and smooth. Because I'm going to use some antique wax on this, I did want to be able to have the stainable wood filler. So if you're going to paint it, you could use caulk or spackling or whatever, but because I was going to use that wax is the reason I wanted to use the stainable wood filler. Now I am marking the center of 2 of the sides so that I will know where to place these 5-gallon paint stir sticks. I had 1 full size and 1 smaller size, so I cut 2 of them down to 8 inches. And I just used my regular handsaw to cut those down. I found the center on each end of those paint sticks so that when I get ready to apply this to the lids, I know exactly where to place them. Using Gorilla Wood Glue, I'm going to attach each of the paint sticks on each side at the bottom of one of the lids, making sure that the palette portion stand is facing upwards. And then I'll take some of the Dollar Tree clamps and hold those in place until the wood glue sets up. I do the exact same thing on the other stick, and then I can add the second lid at the top portion of these sticks. Again, because I'm going to use the wax, I made sure that I removed any of the glue residue because it will not stain. To attach it at the top, I made sure that the lid was flush with the top of the paint sticks, used the Gorilla Wood Glue, and then the clamps, and I just let mine set overnight to make sure that the glue was set. Because I'm going to set some little pots on there, planter pots, I wanted to give it a little bit more security and stability, so I took my staple gun and stapled inside the lid into the paint stick on both of those lids on each side. And you can see it a little bit, but once you put your pots in there, you really can't see those staples. I took the antique Waverly wax and went over this entire piece, and then I do wipe it down. Now the wood filler, you can see it a little bit, so I do go around the edging of that with a second coat to blend it in until it's nice and smooth and has a cohesive look. I also made sure that I got the inside of each of those drawers, and this is how the stand turned out. Is so cute. To decorate this, I am using the 3-inch size terracotta pots from Dollar Tree, and I just have some beautiful lavender. I believe the lavender came from Walmart, and I could place 1 in each stand, and I think this turned out so cute, so inexpensive, very easy to do, but really is a beautiful statement piece. Let me know what you think of project number 3. If this is your first time visiting my channel and you're enjoying today's video, I would love for you to click that subscribe button and the notification bell. And visit me on Instagram and my website, and I also have a Pinterest. Now let's get started on our 4th project today. Using this metal bucket from Dollar Tree, I'm going to use the same matte white Krylon Fusion all-in-one spray paint and give this 2 thin coats. I wasn't too concerned about getting full coverage because I am going to be using this stencil that I found at Dollar Tree. It has 4 different designs in it, and I just cut one of the designs out, and it has this nice thick plastic, so I thought this would be perfect for this project. Using some painter's tape, I'm just going to place the stencil and tape it down on all 4 sides, and I do use some tumbling tower pieces to hold that in place to keep it from rolling around. Once I have my stencil taped in place, I'm going to use some spackling to add to the top of the stencil. You could use caulk, spackling, whatever you have on hand. This was pretty dry because I've had it for quite some time. So if it's a little bit runnier. You may want to let it thicken up a little bit so that this project will turn out really well. If it's too runny, it will seep underneath your stencil. So because mine was a little bit thick and dry, I applied it all over the stencil, scraped most of it off, and then I'm taking the plastic putty knife that's just about as wide as this bucket and gently going over it to get my lines out of the putty itself. Then I can remove my stencil, and this is so pretty when it comes off. Now, I know the stencil doesn't fit this bucket perfectly, so I took the stencil, cleaned that off, and once the putty was dry on one side, I could move around the bucket. So then I had some spacing between there, so I'm just going to line up which design I want to place in between those two stencil portions, and then I can tape that down on each side and use the same method to apply that putty, mud, spackling, whatever you want to call it, in there. Now that one came out a little bit rougher than I wanted it to look. So to fix that, I took some 150 grit sandpaper and went in between all of the designs to kind of straighten and clean that up a little bit. Although it's already white, the spackling is a little bit darker than the bucket itself, so I did go over that with one coat of Waverly White chalk paint. Then I'm using my favorite gray chalk paint, which is Deco Art Chalky Finish Paint, and I'll have that listed in my Amazon store in my description box below if you are interested in that. I am very lightly going over each one of the designs until I get the look that I am going for. So you could leave it just as it is, but I kind of really wanted to use that gray paint to bring this design out so you could really see it. To fill mine with florals, I just cut some pool noodle down. Again, you guys, I don't have any floral foam right now, so I am really going on with this pool noodle to use that, which is actually a lot less expensive than using the styrofoam. I just shoved mine into the bottom of the bucket until I had a nice tight fit. And again, I'm going to decorate this with the same purple Plumera flowers that I had picked up several bundles at Dollar Tree. And some boxwood greenery. Again, this is from Walmart. And I just filled this in until it was nice and full. And I think this turned out really nice. It almost looks like an aged antique piece. And it has some beautiful texture on it. And I just love how project number 4 turned out. Let me know what you think. For project number 5, we're going to create this fence pot holder. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Rose's Variety Store or Rose's Department Store. I'm not sure. I think they're only on the East Coast of the United States. But they had this plastic fence. You could get 4 for $5. So I'm sure you could probably find something similar at Walmart or maybe even Dollar General, but I loved the design on this one. It does have a few little plastic pieces that were poking up, so I took my utility knife and trimmed those down. And then the edges on all 4, well, the 2 on each side, I trimmed those down nice and even with my scissors. This is where this fencing would interlock with one another. Once I have that trimmed down, I'm going to take 2 of these MDF type signs from Dollar Tree that are pretty thick and they are the perfect length for this. And I'm going to glue these together using E6000. And I'm gluing them, just the flat side so it'll be a nice wide piece. And once I have that in place and the E6000 has set up, and I did use a little bit of hot glue just to give me that temporary hold. I held it up to the bottom of the fence so that I could score where I needed to cut those bottom stakes off. Again, I just used my scissors and cut that down, and this is going to give me room enough to be able to glue those signs to the bottom of this fence and give me a nice platform. Using the E6000 and the hot glue, and that E6000 is going to give you that permanent hold. And I also don't like to mix my E6000 with my hot glue when I apply it because it doesn't seem to work very well if you mix the 2 of them. I held that in place, and then to give it a little bit more stability, I added some hot glue to the back of the fencing right there at the bottom of the sign and held that in place. I painted this entire piece with the Waverly white chalk paint. The fence, I did give that 2 coats, but of course, since the signs were already white, it only took 1 coat to go over that. You could leave it just like this. It is super gorgeous, but I like to add a little bit of distressing to mine, not too much, but just a little bit, and I'm going to use the antique Waverly wax and just apply it, mostly emphasizing on that railing portion that you would see the metal rails at the top of the fence. To decorate this, I'm using 2 of the terracotta pots from Dollar Tree in this super cute metal milk container from Hobby Lobby. I picked that up on sale. I believe it was about $1, maybe $1.29. And I decorated those with the purple lavender and then also the green lavender. And I love how this piece turned out. This is so stinking cute. This would look so cute on your covered porch or your patio or indoors. I just love how it turned out. You guys, if you have a favorite, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know which one is your favorite. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care, and I will see you guys next time.